Welcome back to the Deep Dive. This is the show where we don't just skim the surface. We take that huge stack of information you need for your prep, and we really drill down until we hit bedrock.
We really do.
And this edition is presented, as always, by the Simplified UPSC by PPP YouTube channel. I'm really pumped for this one because we are tackling the beast that is the UPSC examination.
It certainly is a beast.
But we're doing it in a way that I think is pretty unique, pretty different.
I think so, too. We're not just, reading textbooks today. We are really trying to bridge a gap that I think trips up so many aspirants.
Okay, what's that gap?
It's the gap between knowing and applying. So we're taking the foundational texts, specifically the NCERTs, and we are basically welding them directly to the previous year questions, or PYQs.
That's the mission, right? Cracking the code. Because so many people, they read the NCERTs.
Everyone reads them.
Everyone reads them. They highlight them, they make notes, they try to memorize them, but then they get into the mains exam hall and they just freeze.
Exactly, and it's because they've memorized the what, but the exam is asking for the so what. It asks for the application, the analysis. You can't just know facts. You have to understand how those facts are, kind of weaponized in the actual examination papers.
Weaponized facts.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay, before we start building up that arsenal for you, I just have a very humble request for everyone listening.
Ooh.
We put a ton of research into these deep dives to make your prep as efficient as possible. So if you find value in this, if it helps you connect the dots, please subscribe to the Simplified UPSC by PPP YouTube channel. It really helps the algorithm find other learners just like you.
It makes a huge difference.
And honestly, if you're capable and you want to help us keep the lights on and keep this high-value content coming your way, please do consider supporting us on Patreon.
And on that note, a massive thank you to our existing patrons. You guys are really the reason we can afford to dedicate the time to do this level of research.
Absolutely. We couldn't do it without you. Also, you know the drill. Hit that like button, leave a comment. We actually read them, and your feedback genuinely shapes where we go next.
It does.
Now, for the serious learners out there, the free notes and the practice PYQs we're about to tear apart in this deep dive, they're available right now on our public Telegram channel.
That's the free one, open to everyone.
But, and here's the pro tip, if you want the private Telegram library, that's a whole different level.
It is. So what you get there is access to, all the videos in this series all at once. You don't have to wait for them to be released.
Binge watching for UPSC prep. I love it.
Kinda, yeah. And you also get the organized premium notes, which are far more detailed, extra PYQs that we don't have time to cover here. And this is the real game changer model mains answers.
So you can see what a top-tier answer is supposed to look like, how it's structured.
That's it. It's one thing to know the answer. It's another to know how to write it under pressure. To get in, just DM us on the public Telegram channel and we'll get you sorted.
Okay, housekeeping is done. Let's get into the meat of it. Today, we are opening up NCERT Class 8 Geography, Chapter 1. And the title is Deceptively Simple. Resources.
It sounds so basic, doesn't it?
It does. You hear resources and you think, okay, yeah, coal, water, timber, got it, next chapter.
Yep.
But looking at your notes here, that's a massive trap.
It's a huge trap.
This isn't just about definitions. We're talking about the whole philosophy of the utility, the economics of value, and how a chapter written for, 13-year-olds?
Yeah, about that age.
How that chapter ends up framing questions for the 2025 mains paper. It's kind of mind-blowing.
That's the fascinating part. We found direct DNA matches, clear lines between this 8th grade text and questions asked in 2013, 2014, 2015, and like you said, very heavily in the 2025 paper.
Okay, so let's start at the very beginning, segment 1, defining the resource. The text poses a question that feels almost philosophical. What actually makes something a resource? Is a rock just sitting on Mars a resource?
That's a great question. And according to the text, no. Not yet. Anyway, the NCERT introduces a very precise conceptual framework right at the start. It brings in the concept of utility, or, usability.
Utility.
For something to be a resource, it must have utility.
Okay, break it down for us. Utility just means useful, right? Is it that simple?
In a broad sense, yes. But think about the specific examples the text uses. It lists water, electricity, a rickshaw, vegetables, and textbooks.
Okay, that's a weird list.
It is a weird list. On the surface, a vegetable and a rickshaw have absolutely nothing in common. One's biological, one's mechanical, one's food, one's transport.
Right.
But they all share that one critical attribute: They are used by us. They satisfy a need, that ability to satisfy a need, that utility. That's the magic dust that turns a substance into a resource.
Magic dust. I like that. So until a human being looks at an object, a substance, and says, hey, I can use this to solve a problem, it's just matter. It's just stuff.
Precisely. It's just a substance. Utility is what gives it purpose. And this leads us directly to the second core concept the NCERT introduces right away, which is value.
Okay, value. Now, in a normal conversation, if I ask, what's the value of this, I'm asking for a price tag. I'm asking for a number. But the text seems to be making a distinction between different types of value.
It does, and this distinction is absolutely crucial for both economics and geography, and frankly for ethics too. The text defines value simply as worth, but then it says worth isn't always monetary.
Okay.
It breaks it down into economic value and what it calls non-economic value.
Give me the breakdown. What's the difference?
So economic value is the easy one to grasp. Metals, for example.
Yep.
You mine iron ore, you refine it into steel, you sell it on the global market, it has a price tag. That is clear economic value.
Straightforward.
But then you consider a beautiful landscape, a stunning sunset over a valley somewhere. Does it have a price tag? Can you? Can you buy the sunset?
No. I mean, you can pay for a plane ticket to go there or a hotel with a view, but you can't buy the view itself.
Exactly. But does it satisfy a human need?
Yeah, I'd say so. The need for beauty, for peace, for, mental well-being.
Right. Therefore, it has value, it has worth. So both the metal and the landscape are resources because they both satisfy human needs, even if only one of them shows up on a corporate balance sheet.
That's a really healthy, sort of holistic way to look at the world. It frames the idea of wealth in a much broader sense than just, GDP numbers.
It really does.
But I saw an example in the notes that really caught my eye. It's a great little analogy the text uses. It's about grandma's home remedies.
Ah, yes. This is a brilliant example because it shows how value can shift and change.
Right, because I think everyone can relate to this.
Mhm.
You have this, specialized bit of family knowledge, maybe a turmeric paste recipe for a cut, or a specific kind of ginger tea for a cold that your grandmother taught you.
Yeah.
Currently, that knowledge is useful to you. It has utility, but has zero economic value. You're not selling it.
Correct. It's purely for personal use.
Yeah.
But the text says that status, that non-economic status, isn't permanent. It can be changed through a legal mechanism. And this is a key glossary term the NCERT highlights. A patent.
A patent. Okay. Which is what?
A patent is the exclusive right over a particular idea or an invention.
So if I take grandma's remedy and I document the chemical composition, I prove it works in a lab, and I manage to slap a patent on it.
Then you, or a company you sell it to, can manufacture and sell it as a medical product. Suddenly, that resource, that knowledge, which had only non-economic value yesterday, now has immense economic value today.
But the substance didn't change. The turmeric is still turmeric. The ginger is still ginger.
Exactly.
But the context, the legal and the economic wrapper you put around it changed completely.
That's the key. And that brings us to the two major engines that the text says drive this kind of change. It identifies them as time and technology.
Time and technology. It sounds like the title of a sci-fi movie.
It does, doesn't it? But really, it's the history of human civilization in two words. These are the drivers of resource creation. And notice I said creation. The book implies that resources are created, not just found.
What do you mean by that?
They're created by human needs evolving over time and by our technology developing to satisfy those evolving needs.
The text mentions this idea of a chain reaction of discovery. Can we unpack that a little?
Sure. Let's think about fire. When early humans first encountered fire, it was probably just a terrifying natural hazard.
Right, a forest fire, a threat.
Exactly. It wasn't a resource at all, it was a danger. But over time, they learned to control it. That new technology, the ability to start and control fire at will, turned it into a resource for cooking, for warmth, for protection.
Which then changed our biology, our social structures, everything.
A massive, massive ripple effect. Or take the invention of the wheel. Initially, who knows, maybe it was just a toy or a potter's wheel, but eventually that technology resulted in the development of transport carts, wagons, that completely revolutionized trade, settlement patterns, everything.
And the example of hydroelectricity is probably the most relevant one for modern geography, isn't it?
It is. For thousands of years, a fast-flowing river was just a barrier you had to cross, or maybe a source of drinking water. It had utility for sure.
But the energy inside that moving water,
That wasn't a resource yet. We couldn't access it. We didn't have the technological key to unlock it.
we couldn't see the electricity in the river.
Right. But then came the technology, turbines, dams, dynamos. That technology turned the kinetic energy of the water into electricity. Technology turned a simple natural phenomenon into a critical economic resource that powers our cities.
So if we zoom out and look at the big picture, the concept of a resource isn't fixed. It's not a static list. It's dynamic. Resources evolve as we get smarter.
That is a perfect summary. Resources evolve as we evolve.
Okay, so we know what they are and how they become resources. Now let's get into how we sort them, how we classify them. Segment 2, classification. The text gives us 3 broad buckets to put things in: natural, human-made, and human. Let's start with natural.
Natural resources are, the baseline. These are the things that are drawn from nature and used without much modification. The air we breathe, the water in the rivers, the soil, the minerals in the ground. As the text says, many of these are free gifts of nature.
But within that natural category, we have the classic showdown: renewable versus non-renewable. And I feel like this is where people, even aspirants, can get a little lazy with their definitions.
They do, and it's a distinction that basically every single environmental policy and international treaty hangs on. It's that important.
So let's be precise. What are renewable resources?
Renewable resources are those which get renewed or replenished relatively quickly. Some are, for all intents and purposes, unlimited solar and wind energy. You can't use up the sun, right?
Oh, it's going to be there tomorrow.
But, and this is a really serious warning the text drops in, it says, and I'm quoting here, careless use of certain renewable resources like water, soil, and forest can affect their stock.
That's the critical nuance. That's the part people miss. We often think of water as infinite because, the water cycle. Rain falls, rivers flow, oceans evaporate, it repeats.
But useful, clean, potable water
Right?
in a specific location at a specific time, that is absolutely not infinite. The text explicitly mentions that the shortage and the drying up of natural water sources is a major global problem.
So it's a renewable resource, technically.
Yeah.
But we are using it up faster than the local rate of renewal.
You've hit the nail on the head. So you could say it's renewable, but it's also exhaustible in the short to medium term. Compare that to non-renewables.
Okay, these are the ones with a limited stock. The finite resources. Coal, petroleum, natural gas.
Right. Once we burn that liter of petrol in our car, it's gone. Physically, chemically, it has changed state and it cannot be used as energy again. And since it takes millions of years to form, and our lifespan is maybe 80 or 90 years, for all practical purposes, it's gone forever.
That's a pretty stark reality.
It is.
Okay, now let's do what we promised at the start. Let's connect these, seemingly simple 8th grade concepts to the terrifyingly difficult UPSC Mains questions. Let's look at the energy and environment linkage you found.
Let's do it. Let's start with renewables. In the 2025 General Studies Paper 1, Question 6 asks this. Listen. Explain briefly the ecological and economic benefits of solar energy generation in India with suitable examples.
Okay, wow. That's a direct hit on the unlimited renewable concept we were just discussing.
It is a direct hit. The NCERT introduces solar as an unlimited resource. The UPSC question is just asking you to take that definition and apply it to the Indian context.
So economically, why is it beneficial?
Well, because, as the NCERT implies, the fuel is a free gift. Once you pay the capital cost to build the panel, the fuel, the sunlight, is free forever. This reduces our import dependence on oil and gas, which are non-renewable and very expensive.
And the ecological benefits, that's the obvious one.
That's the low-hanging fruit. It cuts carbon emissions, helps fight climate change. But look at the question's wording. It asks for suitable examples. This is where you have to bridge the gap from the textbook to the real world.
So you can't just write theory.
No.
Yeah.
You have to cite things like the International Solar Alliance, headquartered in India. You have to mention specific projects like the Bhadla Solar Park in Rajasthan. But your core argument, the why behind your answer, rests on that simple definition from Chapter 1. It's a resource stock that does not deplete with use.
That makes so much sense. You build your answer on the foundation of the NCERT concept. What about non-renewables? You mentioned something about the Arctic earlier.
Yes. This is a fascinating one. Take a look at the 2015 General Studies Paper 1, Question 20. It asks, what are the economic significances of discovery of oil in the Arctic Sea and its possible environmental consequences?
Ooh, Arctic oil. That sounds like the plot of a geopolitical thriller movie.
It basically is. But think about the connection to our chapter. Why are powerful nations suddenly scrambling to drill for oil in one of the most hostile environments on Earth?
Because they're running out elsewhere.
Precisely. Because, as the NCERT states, non-renewable resources have a limited stock. We are exhausting the easy-to-reach, cheaper stocks in places like the Middle East or Texas. So the entire why behind this Arctic scramble is the concept of scarcity defined in Chapter 1.
So the economic significance part of the answer is essentially about the immense value of that remaining stock in an energy-hungry world.
Correct. And the environmental consequence part. It's all about the massive risks of drilling and potential spills in such a fragile, unique ecosystem. You simply cannot answer that question well without understanding the desperate, high-stakes nature of non-renewable resource hunting. It's a global treasure hunt where the map is shrinking every year.
And speaking of maps and where this stuff is actually found, I noticed another PYQ linkage you found for 2025 that's about distribution.
Yes, this one is great. Question 14 in GS Paper 1 of 2025. Give a geographical explanation of the distribution of offshore oil reserves of the world. How are they different from the onshore occurrences of oil reserves?
That sounds super technical, offshore versus onshore.
It is technical for sure, but look at the fundamental NCERT principle that underpins the entire question. The text states, very simply, the distribution of natural resources depends upon a number of physical factors like terrain, climate, and altitude. It explicitly says the distribution is unequal because these physical factors differ all over the Earth.
So the question is basically asking you to apply that general principle specifically to oil.
That's it. Why is oil found where it is? The answer is about specific geological history, the physical factors. It's about where ancient marine environments were located millions of years ago, where sediments were deposited. The entire answer, no matter how technical it gets, is an advanced application of that basic NCERT sentence. Distribution depends on physical factors.
It's wild when you're 13, you read that sentence and you just gloss over it, you highlight it and move on.
And you'd have no idea that that one sentence is the conceptual key to unlocking a 15-mark answer in the mains.
Incredible. Okay, let's keep moving. Segment 3. We've covered natural resources. Now let's talk about the other two buckets, human-made and human resources.
Right. So this is where the focus shifts from what nature gives us to what we as humans do with it. Human-made resources are basically natural substances that have been transformed by us.
So iron ore is just a rock.
It's useless as it is. But when we extract the iron and turn it into steel, and then use that steel to build a bridge, the bridge is a human-made resource. A building is a resource, a road, a car, a smartphone.
And the text makes a really crucial point here that I think is often overlooked.
Yeah.
Technology itself is a human-made resource.
Yes, this is a very important point. We often think of resources as tangible things, bricks, steel, plastic. But the method of building, the software that runs the factory, the algorithm that designs the engine, the technique for extracting the metal, that technology is a resource that we created to create other resources. It's a force multiplier.
A resource that makes resources.
Exactly, which leads us to the most complex and maybe the most controversial resource of all, people, human resources.
I always find this term a little funny. It sounds so corporate. I need to talk to HR. But the text asks this really fundamental question. Are people resources?
And the answer from the NCERT is an emphatic yes. In fact, the text argues that people are the most important resource of all.
Okay, why? Why are we as people more important than, say, gold or uranium or water?
Because without humans, gold is just a shiny yellow metal. It has no value. Without humans, uranium is just a dangerous radioactive rock. It is human ideas, our knowledge, our inventions, and our discoveries that recognize the utility in those substances and create the value. We are the ones who unlock the potential of everything else in nature. We're the catalyst.
So nature provides the ingredients, but humans are the chefs.
That's a perfect analogy. And this then leads to the very important concept of human resource development.
Right.
If people are resources, then it follows that improving the quality of people through education, through healthcare, through skills training makes them a better, more valuable resource. Just like refining crude oil makes it more valuable, educating a child makes them more valuable to society in terms of their potential to create more resources.
This interaction, this relationship between human resources, us, and natural resources, nature, that has to be a huge theme in the UPSC exams.
It is a massive recurring theme. Let's look at the 2025 GS Paper 1 again. Question 17 asks this. Discuss the distribution and density of population in the Ganga River Basin with special reference to land, soil, and water resources.
Okay, connect the dots for us. How does this link back?
This question is asking you to explain the direct correlation between the quality and availability of natural resources and the density of human resources. Why is the Ganga Basin so packed with people?
Because the resources are there to support them.
Exactly. Fertile alluvial soil, abundant fresh water from the river. These high-quality natural resources create a high ecological carrying capacity. It completely validates the NCERT's point that physical factors determine where resources, and therefore where people are found. Humans congregate where the natural utility is highest.
But sometimes that interaction goes wrong. We don't just use the resources, we change the entire environment, sometimes for the worse.
We do, and UPSC is very interested in that. Look at 2015 GS Paper 1, Question 18. How far do you agree that the behavior of the Indian monsoon has been changing due to humanizing landscapes? Discuss.
Humanizing landscapes. That's a very poetic way of saying we pave paradise and put up a parking lot.
Essentially, yes. It's about deforestation, urbanization, industrialization. We took natural resources like forests and land and turned them into human-made resources like cities, roads, and industrial belts. And in doing so, the argument goes, we have altered the natural weather system, the monsoon itself.
So the question is asking you to critique the very process of resource creation described in Chapter 1.
Precisely. We used our technology and our time to change substances into resources, but did we inadvertently break the engine of the entire system in the process?
Wow. That is a perfect segue to our next section, Segment 4, Conservation and Sustainable Development. Because if we break the engine, we are in deep, deep trouble. And the text opens this section with a bit of a horror story. It's called Mona's Nightmare.
It's a surprisingly stark image for a children's book. Mona has this dream that all the water on Earth has dried up, all the trees have been cut down, there's no shade anywhere, and people are desperately searching for food and water.
It's a vivid illustration of total resource exhaustion. It feels like something out of a dystopian novel, not a geography textbook.
And it validates that fear. It's meant to remind us that even our renewable resources, if we mismanage them, can become scarce. And our non-renewables can absolutely, definitely get exhausted. This fear is the primary motivation for resource conservation,
Which the NCERT defines as
using resources carefully and, crucially, giving them time to get renewed. It's about patience. It's about ensuring our rate of extraction doesn't exceed nature's rate of replenishment.
But here's the problem, the central conflict. We can't just stop using things, can we? We need to eat. We need to build houses. We have billions of people who need electricity for a basic standard of living. We can't just go back to the Stone Age.
That is the central conflict of modern development. And that is precisely why the text introduces the concept of sustainable development. It's a balancing act. It is about balancing the need to use resources now for our growth and survival, while also conserving them so that future generations can meet their own needs.
The glossary definition of the book is really beautiful, I think. It says, carefully utilizing resources so that besides meeting present requirements, it also takes care of future generations.
That concept is called intergenerational equity. The idea that we are borrowing the planet from our children, not that we inherited it from our parents.
The NCERT then lists some principles for this. Things like respect and care for all forms of life, improve the quality of human life, conserve the Earth's vitality and diversity, minimize the depletion of natural resources.
And then it gets to the really tough ones. It says we need to change personal attitude and practices toward the environment and enable communities to care for their own environment.
And these are nice principles on paper. But in the real world, in a developing economy with widespread poverty, they are incredibly hard to implement.
And UPSC knows that. They aren't going to ask you to just list the principles. They're going to ask you about this very conflict.
I bet they do.
Oh, they do. Let's look at 2025 GS Paper 1, Question 19. Listen very closely to this wording. Achieving sustainable growth with emphasis on environmental protection could come into conflict with poor people's needs in a country like India, comment.
Whoa. Okay, that is a heavy question. That's not just asking about science or geography. That's asking about ethics and governance.
It hits the nail right on the head. The NCERT gives us the ideal, sustainable development. The UPSC exam then asks you, okay, is that ideal a luxury that only rich countries can afford?
Right. If you restrict coal usage to conserve the Earth's vitality, are you denying cheap, reliable electricity to a poor household that needs it for their children to study?
Exactly. If you declare a forest a protected area, are you stopping a local tribal community from gathering the firewood they need to cook their meals? It asks you to critically evaluate the beautiful concept from Class 8 against the harsh, messy reality of poverty in India.
So it's not just save the planet, it's save the planet versus feed the people. Or I guess the real challenge is, how do we do both at the same time?
That is the core question of modern policymaking.
I think there was another one from 2015 about tourism that touches on this same conflict, right?
Yes, a very good one. Question 17. The states of Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, and Uttarakhand are reaching the limits of their ecological carrying capacity due to tourism. Critically evaluate.
Ecological carrying capacity.
Which is just a fancier way of saying resource depletion or affecting the stock, to use the NCERT's language. The tourists are the human resources bringing in much-needed economic value money jobs. But in doing so, they are depleting the natural resources, the clean water, the land, the stability of the hillsides, faster than they can renew.
And the question links back to that insert principle. Enable communities to care for their own environment. When mass tourism explodes, local conservation efforts often collapse under the pressure.
You've got it. It really shows that these aren't abstract academic concepts. These are life and death issues for these Himalayan states. If you push past the carrying capacity, you get water shortages, you get landslides, you get devastating floods.
Absolutely. It's immediate and it's very real.
It is.
Okay, let's move to segment 5. This one is about resource inequality and social issues. The text mentions a very simple fact. The distribution of natural resources is unequal, and it tells us why. Because the Earth is messy. Terrain differs, climate differs, altitude differs.
Geography is not fair. Some countries get massive oil reserves, some regions get incredibly fertile soil, and some places get sand and rock.
And this fundamental inequality has massive social and political implications.
The text just touches on the idea of interdependence, but you can expand that. Resource ownership dictates power. If you control the water source or the oil fields or the lithium mines, you call the shots on the world stage.
And the exam linkage you found here is fascinating because it jumps from geography in paper 1 all the way to polity and society in general studies paper 2.
Right. Look at this question from 2025 GS paper 2, question 16. Inequality in the ownership pattern of resources is one of the major causes of poverty. Discuss in the context of paradox of poverty.
Wait, hold on. Paradox of poverty, what is that?
Yeah, it's a concept that's often called the resource curse. It refers to the strange phenomenon where regions or countries that are incredibly rich in natural resources, think of mineral-rich areas in Jharkhand or Odisha in India, or some nations in Africa, often have some of the poorest populations.
It doesn't seem to make any sense. If they are literally sitting on top of gold or coal or diamonds, why are they poor?
Because the ownership and the benefits of that resource are not with the local people. The economic value is extracted by large corporations or the central state, but the local utility is lost. The local people get the negative consequences, the pollution, the displacement, the environmental damage, but they don't get the wealth.
So this question is validating the insert concept that resources have value.
And it's showing that whoever controls that value controls the economic destiny of the people. It takes a simple geographical fact from Chapter 1, unequal distribution, and applies it to a complex socioeconomic critique.
That's a very powerful linkage. And you mentioned there was a question about women, too. How does that fit in?
Yes, it's a bit of a tangential link, but I think it's a very thought-provoking one. 2015 GS Paper 1, question 12 asked, why do some of the most prosperous regions of India have an adverse sex ratio for women?
Okay, how does that connect to resources?
Well, it connects to our definitions of human resources and value. Prosperity in a region usually comes from the good management of natural or human-made resources, be it productive agriculture or successful industries. But this question highlights a very dark side of cultural value. In some of these prosperous, resource-rich areas, women are not valued as equal human resources. Their worth in the social structure is tragically undervalued, leading to practices that result in adverse sex ratios.
So showing that just having economic resources doesn't automatically lead to social equity or moral progress.
Exactly. That is a sobering but very important lesson. Resource wealth does not automatically buy moral progress.
No, it does not. Okay, we've gone deep, we've gone a little dark there. Let's try to bring it back to something actionable. Segment 6, practical application and what we can do. The text doesn't just leave us with all these problems, it does offer some solutions.
It does. It's not all doom and gloom. For example, it highlights a very practical technique, rainwater harvesting.
I love those little do you know
Yeah.
boxes in the inserts. This one says that one single spell of rain lasting just 2 hours is enough to save 8,000 liters of water if you harvest it from a rooftop.
8,000 liters. Just think about that. That is a massive amount of utility from a single, simple intervention.
That's huge.
It is, and it connects directly back to the principle of minimizing depletion of natural resources. If you harvest that rain, you aren't pumping groundwater from the aquifer. You're letting that precious resource recharge. It's a perfect example of a low-tech, high-impact conservation strategy.
The text also tries to personalize it. It has the characters from the chapter, Asha, Raju, and Mona, making personal pledges. One says, I will make sure water is not wasted at my home, and another says, every drop of water is precious.
It sounds simple, almost childish maybe, but think about the aggregate effect. If 1 billion people in India save just 1 liter of water a day, that's 1 billion liters saved every single day. Individual action is a component of sustainable development. It's not just about big government treaties and international conferences.
So to everyone listening, here is the challenge from us to you. The NCERT asks, how are you going to help conserve resources? It's not just a question for the exam, it's a question for how we live on this planet.
And for the exam, remember this. When you write an answer about conservation or sustainability, don't just talk about government policies and laws. Make sure to also mention community participation and individual behavioral change. That makes your answer much more holistic. It shows the examiner you understand the human element of the issue.
That's a great tip.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do a quick recap before we wrap up. We have covered a lot of ground today from one short chapter.
We have. Let's just hit the main headlines. 1, utility is the magic dust that turns a substance into a resource.
2, value can be economic, like money, or non-economic, like beauty, but both are valid.
3, time and technology are the 2 great engines that create new resources.
4, natural resources are unevenly distributed across the globe because of physical factors. It's not a level playing field.
5, people are the ultimate resource, what we call human capital. Our minds create all other resources.
And 6, the big one. Sustainable development is the critical, difficult balancing act between our present needs and the security of future generations.
And every single one of those 6 points has appeared in some form or another in the UPSC Mains in the last decade or so.
Every single one. It's unbelievable.
It is.
So what does this all mean for you, the aspirant? It means you absolutely cannot skip the basics. You cannot build a penthouse of complex knowledge if your foundation is cracked.
Correct. Read the inserts. But don't just read them passively. Read them with an analytical eye. Constantly ask yourself, why is this important? And how does this apply to the problems India is facing today? That is how you crack the code.
Okay, I want to leave our listeners with a final provocative thought for the road. The text ends with this very serious line. The future of our planet is linked with our ability to maintain and preserve the life support system that nature provides.
It's a heavy responsibility for all of us.
It is. So here's my question for you to mull over. We established today that technology is a human-made resource. We also established that technology often accelerates resource consumption. Better drills, faster chainsaws, bigger fishing nets.
Right.
So can technology really solve the resource depletion crisis? Or is technology the fundamental cause of the crisis in the first place? Is the solution more technology, or is it actually less?
That is the ultimate paradox, isn't it? Can the tool that broke the machine also be the tool that fixes it?
Think about that. Write a little essay in your head about it on your way home.
Or better yet, write an actual answer and check it against our model answers in the private library.
Huh. A very smooth plug. I love it.
I try my best.
All right. That is a wrap for this deep dive. Remember, this was presented by Simplified UPSC by BPP.
And if you want those premium notes, the detailed mains answers, and all those extra PYQs we mentioned, just DM us on the public Telegram channel to join the private library.
And please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Support us on Patreon if you can. It truly keeps this ship sailing. A massive thank you again to everyone who already does.
Like the video, share it with a friend, and leave us a comment. Let us know what topic you think we should dive into next.
Until then, keep learning.
And keep analyzing.